Hey, it's Dayna Steele. Thanks for listening to my podcast, hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to be speaking with pediatric physical therapist Janice Justiz. Now, why would we speak with her when she normally works with young patients? Well, when she's not doing that, she also advises her mom and her sister-in-law, me, on stretches we can do every morning before we even get out of bed. They're great. She's got great advice. And the more you keep your body in motion, the healthier your brain will be. After I lost my mom to Alzheimer's, I decided to take everything I learned and everyone I've met since and share that information and the lessons learned. I'm Dayna Steele, and this is hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's, a caregiver's manual, a how-to guide for friends and family, and a safe space to learn and vent and maybe share a glass of wine. She's joined us on the podcast, several of my podcasts in the past, and she's joining us again, and that would be pediatric physical therapist Janice Justiz, but we're not talking pediatrics. Do you have an official title? Am I even close?
You are right on target. I'm a pediatric physical therapist.
But you and I were, well, she also happens to be my sister-in-law. I did, I won the lottery in sister-in-laws. It's really amazing. Um, you and I were talking once, some time ago, and it really didn't register at the time, but it did later on when I needed it. And that is, you had given your mom, as she was aging and slowing down a little bit, you were talking about the fact that you had given her some exercises to do before she even gets out of bed. Was it just age, or was it arthritis? What was it that, why were you giving her these exercises to do, I guess, in the first place?
So the age and arthritis, yes, they all go together. She was having back pain, and I said to her, you know what, these are the exercises I do because I have a scoliosis. These are the exercises I do in the morning, and I haven't had back pain since I started them. I went on this amazing trip years ago with Dayna Steele, and we walked all over New York, and I couldn't move after I got home. And then I said, okay, what's wrong? I went to the physical therapist. The therapist said, oh, you're stuck in this position. I went, well, I'm a therapist. How do I fix this? And so I came up with this little set of exercises that worked for me. So when mom started having problems, I said, try this. Let's see what happens. And it's worked great for her.
Fast forward, I did that, was fortunate enough to do that journey around the world for 1 year. And by the time I got home, I'd gained weight. I had entirely too many croissants and cheese and wine and whatever else. But I was also in severe back pain. Found out later on the pain I was having in my upper lower right side, which we did all kinds of MRIs and CAT scans and everything, turned out to be is it deferred or referred pain? Deferred pain?
Referred.
Referred pain.
Yep.
And it all came back to the fact that as a child, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and all that sitting on planes and trains and cars and buses and carrying a heavy bag on my shoulder had made the scoliosis even worse. Never had a problem with it. Came home with a problem. In the morning, I wake up and I could barely move to get out of bed. So went to a physical therapist, finally got smart, called my physical therapist sister-in-law, Janice Justiz, and said, in fact, no, I think I reached out to Willie first, your husband, the neurologist, who said, well, why don't you talk to Janice? Janice has scoliosis and she's a physical therapist. Duh. So you gave me some of those exercises, and I thought this would be an excellent opportunity to pass this on. Now, it is a video podcast, and some people will just have the audio, but you were able to explain to me such simple exercises before you even get out of bed. And I was just explaining to a friend of mine who does not like to, I get up, I wake up, I'm one of those irritating people that the minute the alarm goes off, I'm up and I'm ready to go. Most people like to lay there for a little bit. Well, if you're laying there, you might as well do this. So take me through some of the exercises that you started doing, and then you gave your mom, and then you gave me.
So really simple. It boils down to let's do every movement that you could possibly think of with your hips and your low back. I have a couple models here so we can see if this is helpful to anybody. And I realize that not everybody will have the video. Um, but basically, if you can imagine, here I got my little spine. Can you see my little spine there?
I see your spine
There's
there.
there's my little spine. So here's your hips. Here, I'm gonna turn around this way. This is your sacrum. This is kind of that bone at the bottom. And this little joint right here is the SI joint. That is a joint that everybody has all their pain in. Not everybody, but that's where a lot of that pain is. That joint is supposed to move. A lot of times that joint gets stuck. So if we can very simply wiggle those hips, and I'll show you on this little model here. If you can imagine your hips, can you see that, Dayna? Is that
I see that. It's a paper hip.
it's a paper hip. It is. But if you can imagine, one side of your hip will move backwards and the other side moves forwards. That's how we walk. They kind of rotate.
Okay.
And again, it's not the greatest model because I made it yesterday. So
Oh, you made it. I'm very impressed
yes, so
with
I made it
with your
yesterday.
arts and crafts.
This is my arts and crafts session. So, but that's the idea, is one side should move forward and one side should move backwards.
And what you have me doing, and which I absolutely do religiously every morning now, is I turn that alarm off and I lay on my back. I lay straight. I get rid of the pillow, maybe just a little bit under my head, and then I just slide my imagine taking your heels and one goes longer than the other, and I just go. But it's the movement's actually in my hips.
And that's exactly the movement that you're doing, is you're moving one side of your hip backwards and one side forwards, and you're trying to get those to go opposite of each other. So the easiest way to do that is bring one knee up to your chest, leave the other one down, and then switch. Bring the
Oh, I
other.
haven't even tried that one because I've just been sliding my legs up and down on the bed. So
Yeah.
now I can do the knees also.
Yep. So you bring your whole knee up like you're doing your chest, like you're going to give your one knee a big hug, and then let that one go down and then do the other one. You can do that same movement without bringing your knee all the way up, but it's a little bit easier to kind of envision, oh, how do I get my pelvis backwards on one side by bringing your knee to your chest? And so you kind of get that backwards and forwards.
And
And you
why are we
go,
talking about this? Because one of the most important things you can do is to keep moving. And also in that list of 5 or 6 things that I'm always telling people, if you want to try to stave off Alzheimer's later in life, it's not only keep moving, it's stay social. Well, if you are in pain and you can barely move when you get up, the last thing you want to do is be social. You're not going to get any exercise. You're not going to get a walk. So that's why we're doing this on this particular episode with Janice of hashtag surviving Alzheimer's, is because you need to keep moving, even if it's just in the bed in the morning when you first wake up. Give us some more we can do.
so you can take your hips and you can take your little hips right here and you can wiggle. Oh, well, the spine's wiggling. That's not supposed to wiggle, but you can wiggle them side to side, wiggle this way. So if you imagine like you're dancing, you've got one hip going up, one hip going down, and just kind of wiggle, wiggle. And you can wiggle them both forward and arch your back, and wiggle them both back and curl your back the other way. So you can do all of those things, any movement that you can think about. Um, you can take your legs and roll, just laying flat, completely flat out here. Take your legs and roll them in, like you're gonna roll your knees in and touch each other, and then roll them all the way out, because that's going to help move that whole SI joint and that whole pelvis to keep it moving. So the really, really simple ones, and you can move one side of your pelvis, move the other side of your pelvis, move them together, wiggle them side to side like you're dancing in the bed and trying to wiggle yourself across the side of the bed. But anything you can do, turn those legs in, turn them out, pick your legs up and stick them straight up in the air and drop them back down, and stick your leg up in the circle and your leg up in the air and roll it around in a circle like you're tracing a dinner plate. Right? Anything that you can do to move those hips and move that lower back is going to be helpful.
What about
So
arms and upper
same
body and
thing. So arms and upper body, it's the same thing. Anything you do. My favorite thing to do is I'll lay at the end of the bed and I'll swim. I'll pretend like I'm swimming. and I do the forward stroke, and then I do the backward stroke, and then I might do a butterfly. So just to kind of keep those arms and shoulders moving too. And same thing, just lift those arms up over your head. This camera is the pits. Down. You lose everything, those things. And then move, do the goalposts like your hammer time. Do your hammer time across the bed, and then roll them down like scarecrow, hammer time, scarecrow, hammer time. All of those movements are good for you. Anything you can do. If it hurts, don't do it. Our goal is here right now to move to move through the range that you have that is pain-free. We're not looking to hurt.
No, it's not a competition.
Nope, it's not a competition. It's
just move as much as you can, because I could hardly move at all when I started.
Right. Yep.
And the minute I felt it clicking or the pain or whatever, I knew I'd pushed it too far.
Yep.
I hardly ever have any pain with it now at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's our goal. Is if you move one direction, if you move your hips backwards and you move them backwards this way and it hurts, well, okay, I don't want to do that. Why try moving them forwards? And if forward doesn't hurt, only move them forwards. So there's always some range that's available to you that's pain-free. And that's where we want to start. And then once that pain subsides, then we can start to move a little bit more and get a little bit more, I wouldn't say aggressive, because this is not aggressive at all. It's very gentle. It's very simple. And very little movements, because there's not a lot of movement in that SI joint. So you can certainly do those things. The one thing I will say is if you do have pain and you have shooting pain and you have pins and needles, those are things that you need to address with your physician or a physical therapist to say, hey, something's not right. This really, really hurts. I can feel it all the way down my whole leg when I do this. That's time to go to the
well, and the pins and needles, the numbness, then you're talking nerves, aren't you?
Then you're
getting
talking
involved
nerves,
in the nerves.
right? Yep. And what we're kind of talking about right now is that stiffness where it's maybe a little bit of arthritis, maybe a little bit of inflammation, or maybe just a little bit of tightness in those muscles. Those muscles need to be stretched. And that's what this really helps with. It's not for somebody who has a bulging disc. It's not going to.
No, then you need to be with your doctor, right?
You need to be with your doctor, yeah. So, but there's all kinds of things, and anything you can do to move. I mean, wiggle your fingers. I mean, I'll wiggle my fingers and kind of, fall them down into a fist and then open them up and wiggle them every place that I can find to wiggle. Do your wrists, make them go around in circles.
I keep a ball in the car, on my desk, in my computer bag, next to me when I'm watching TV. And I do a lot of business conferences, and you do a lot of conferences. A lot of us do. There's always a free ball on one of the,
Yep.
There's a free pen, there's a free notepad. For some reason, there's always a free squeezy toy or ball or something.
Yeah.
And usually I just go, yeah, I don't need. Now I'm like, yes, I'll take them all because I need them in every room of the house. And if I see one, I just pick it up and I start squeezing it. We'll be right back with some more advice from Janice. Also want to take this opportunity to remind you about my book, Surviving Alzheimer's, with friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine. That's how this whole thing started. I lost my mom to Alzheimer's, and when she was first diagnosed, I ended up going on Facebook to let people know, and that turned into a therapy session for me for 2.5 years. I turned that into a book. It became a play. I became a caregiver and brain health advocate, and now this podcast. So if you would like to pick up the book, it is available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. And yes, I promise someday I'm going to actually do the audio version. You would think I could get that done. It's called Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine. And now more stretching and good advice from my sister-in-law and physical therapist, Janice Justiz. Why do we get stuck? Our bodies are designed to move. The way our hips and our joints and everything are put together, We're designed to move. Why do they get stuck like that?
Well, it can be something mechanical like a scoliosis that you just tend to fall in that direction because you've got a mechanical change that's not normal in your system. And that can definitely push you to one side and then you stay there. Everybody has one side that's weaker or stronger than the other. We all do. We're left-handed, right-handed, we all have that. And we tend to lock into that weaker side and use the other hand. We have a side we use for movement, a side we use for stability. Weaker, stronger, however you want to phrase it. But you tend to hold on that stability side and use the mobility side for whatever else you're functioning with. And then over time, oh, I'm holding on my, I'm pulling into my right side. I'm pulling in. I'll see if I can. I'm pulling into that right side. I'm pulling in here. I'm pulling in here. Then we stay there. Eventually, we stay there because we've made that muscle so much stronger than the other side. The other side is weak. So we get
And
these
I have
imbalances.
carried my huge computer bag, my book satchel, my children, shopping bags, anything. I have always carried them on my left side, and my scoliosis curves to the right. So the heavier those bags get, the more I'm
Pulling it
exaggerating that scoliosis and
exactly.
irritating it.
Yep. And that's what happens is we do it over and over and over again. And we're fine for the most part until we're not. And then we just kind of get stuck there. So if we can move everything through those joints, move those joints through the full range all the time, and even if we still carry all our stuff on the one side, well, you've pushed yourself to the other side a little bit to say, hey, let's bend the other direction every once in a while. And you do it every day. And literally, I can lay in my bed and I have to do it in my bed because if I get up, I'm gone and I'm busy and I've got 30 things on my to-do list and I will forget. But I can start with my toes and work all the way up my whole body and just move my whole joints. Every joint, I can figure out how to move it whatever direction it wants to go. And I just think, okay, I can curl my toes, I can splay my toes out, I can make my ankles go back and forth, I can make my ankles go in circle, I can bend my knees, I can do all those little hip movements, I can wiggle my spine, I can twist my back. Be careful with twisting, especially if you have a disc. If you have a disc issue, be very, very careful with that. Because again, this is not for people who say, oh, I've got this bulging disc. And move your shoulders, move your elbows move all those different directions, wrists, fingers, twist your
And
head,
my
down, and you're
favorite,
done.
you know, I had such bad vertigo. I don't know if you remember, I had to go have an MRI. And then when they suggested injecting dye, I was like, no, no, that just doesn't sound good. No. But it turned out to be stress. It turned out to be after MRIs and again, CAT scans and dizziness and nausea and terrifying vertigo. It turned out to be grinding my teeth and clenching my jaw. Even when I'm working during the day, I was clenching. Again, another muscle. So that's the last thing I stretch is I open my mouth
Yeah,
really, really wide and I try to work my jaw around to make sure I'm not starting out the day with this tight, tight face that
right.
is going to, I don't ever want to bring that vertigo back again. So these are just some of the things we can do. I learned a new phrase not too long ago, and it's from Norway, and the phrase is Herkel Durkel, and it means to lay in bed after you've woken up in the morning and not be in any hurry to get up and go anywhere. So sometimes Wonder Husband will say, are you getting up or are you going to Herkel Durkel? And I'm like, I'm going to Herkel Durkel for a while. And that is one of the things you can do is everything that Janice and I have been talking about. Word to the wise, make sure you tell your partner what you're doing so they know you're not having a spasm or some sort of attack. I was just telling my friend Vicky that I was going to be doing this podcast interview with you. And she goes, oh, I do that every morning. And every morning my husband comes out of the bathroom and goes, what are you doing? The same thing I do every morning. She goes, but my leg will be up and my arm will be off to the side. And you got to keep it moving. And again, it goes back to Alzheimer's can start so early in our lives that we don't even realize it. So you want to get a good night's sleep. You want to make sure you de-stress. You want to make sure you meditate. You want to make sure you keep moving and you stay social and you eat right and you watch the alcohol intake. And this is all part of the keeping moving so that you can stay social and do
Right.
all of these things. Give the disclaimers again because I think it's really important that people know don't do these things, especially if your doctor has told you not to.
Right, absolutely. And again, those disclaimers come back to if you're doing any of these exercises and it hurts, don't do it. Find another exercise. You can always move your joint a different direction. If it hurts to move this side to your right, try and move to your left and see if it okay, well, it hurts to my right, so I'm just going to move to my left. I look kind of silly. I look like I should be on Saturday Night Live, but but it's you can always move a joint in some direction that's pain free, and that's what our
It's
goal is.
almost like when you're trying to like open a jar or unscrew a nut, you keep trying to unscrew it. And sometimes if you just go back the other way a little bit and come back, but it's got to be a slow process on the
It's a
human body.
slow process. Yep, yep, and it's not going to change immediately. And again, if it is, you feel that pain, you feel that sharp nerve pain, like somebody stabbing you, or that's those pins and needles. Those kind of pains are not what we're talking about. Those kind of pains, you need to go see your doctor, your physical therapist, somebody that can address those and decide, okay, well, maybe that is okay to do those exercises, or maybe it's not, but we need to know before you start doing any new exercise routine. But
You've
if
done
you're
the study, you've done the college, you've done the certifications, and you work on a daily basis with kids.
Mhm.
If you could go back to yourself or me or any of us as children and give us advice before we become old, what would it be?
What would it be? Stay active. I think it's really that same advice. I mean, when we were kids, if it's the same thing with weight loss. If you watch a child move, they are in motion 24/7. They never stop. We all look at them and go, wow, how can they do that? And they partially they can do it because they don't have any other responsibilities and it's just fun. But the more active we can stay, the better off we are. Doing things like sitting on the floor. Okay, don't ever stop sitting on the floor. Now if you haven't done sitting, if you're 80 years old and try to sit on the floor now, it might be a little bit of an issue. But if you're 50 years old and you can say, "Oh, I can't quite get down there, but let me work on it,"
You
you
know
can.
who does that? Every single morning, Dick Van Dyke, who just turned 100. He dances every day, but one of his first exercises every morning is he sits on the floor, he does some stretches, and then he gets up off the floor.
Floor. Yep, yep, absolutely. And you may have to start. Oh, I've got to hang on to this chair or this other edge of the bed, or I've got to hang on to something. But gradually your muscle strength will come back, that muscle memory will come back, that, oh yeah, this is how I get up off the floor, and you can do it. And that's one of the big things, is don't lose the ability to do those things. Don't ever stop. You look at people, in third world countries, if you'll see where they don't have a lot of chairs, they don't have a lot of furniture, they all squat all the way down. You'll see them in that full squat where their rear end is touching their knees and they're down because they don't have any place else to sit. That's where they get to relax. Well, we could all do that when we were kids. And that's another great activity to be able to do, is train yourself to be able to keep that squat. Get as low as you can in that squat and see if you can get down there. So have something available to help you get up if you need it. But yeah, don't lose that ability to do all those things. Jump, run, jump as a kid. And as you get to your teens and 20s and 30s, don't stop doing that stuff.
Again, thanks for listening to my podcast, hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's. I am Dayna Steele. And if you need more help, more information, resources, questions every family should be asking, what to do if you're concerned somebody you love maybe is showing signs of cognitive decline. Maybe somebody you love has been diagnosed and you need to know how to tell the kids. I have all kinds of free resources on my website at daynasteele.com, DaynaSteele. I hope this helps a bit, and if it does, share it with others. You cannot do this crazy journey alone. And if you need more information on the book, the play, or more episodes, go to daynasteele.com. Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine is available in Kindle and paperback versions on Amazon. Hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's is produced by JFA Inc. in association with Blue Squirrel Productions.